was contacted months ago by a fine writing company, and they asked me if I wanted to review their Fenestro model, and I said yeah, absolutely. And then this was kind of the start of the pandemic. It couldn't be sent to Canada because of the pandemic, so I had it sent to a friend in the US, and then the borders were closed. And then anyway, to cut a long story short, I also need a haircut. I see that's also because of the pandemic. And to cut a long story short, it took months before I got this pen, for which I do apologize to fine writing, but I simply couldn't get to the pen. Now, I have it. This one I have. I'm going to cover the parts of the pen. I'll do a writing sample. I'll tell you what I like and what I don't like about the fine writing Fenestro. Okay, the fine writing ink Fenestro. Let me just take one sip of tea here. Interesting pen. I was informed by the company that since they sent it to me, it was sold out. However, I did still find them in stock at Jet Pens and maybe some other sites as well. So if you really want one, look around, but maybe don't wait too long. The pen comes in this rather simple, but I really like that. I've said this many times, I don't like huge pen boxes. This is very simple, does the job. Holds the pen, comes with a little eyedropper. I'll come back to that. And comes with the box just fell off my desk, that's okay. Comes with filling instructions, which I think is very useful. Because this is a pen that comes in a dual writing mode. No, I shouldn't say that. Comes in a dual filling mode. Not only do you have a standard cartridge converter, you also have an eyedropper mode, which I think is quite neat. Now, looking at these pens side by side, here you have the Fenestro, here you have the Pilot Metropolitan. So as you can see, the Fenestro definitely a bit longer. That is, I think, largely because of the cap. That is quite big, right? Because pen-wise, I think they're similar-ish. Similar-ish, yeah. Nice number 6 nib. So let's talk about the parts here. So you can get the pen in a fine, medium, and broad steel JoWo number 6 nib. Fenestro, Esperanto for window. The idea being that you're kind of looking through a window on a snowy day. I think that snow was captured. Oh, sorry, that snow was captured very well by this material, because it does have the sort of flurry, snowy look to it, which I really like. We've just had a polar vortex, so it's been below -30 centigrade here. Anyway, it's not a meteorology channel, but still, I like it. Comes with a converter, comes with the eyedropper. Now let's look at the parts of the pen, do a writing sample, and then see what I like, what I don't like. So top of the cap, same material as the rest of the cap. I always like that. I like solid caps. A tiny clip. Right, a tiny clip. This is very, in my mind, very vintage inspired, where they had these tiny little clips. I think this is not for everyone, but I'll come back to that. We have a nice little gold colored ring here. We have a big window. That's that window the pen's named after. And then we have the barrel. The barrel tapers down ever so slightly, and the clip is tight, but definitely very usable. I also know that when there is more than one turn, people want to know, so this is now solid. To uncap, 1, 2, 3 turns, so quite a lot of turns. Section, tapers down, flares out ever so slightly. Nice, large, number 6 steel JoWo nib, engraved with the fine writing logo, a little quill, and FW in a fancy script. This is the medium nib, and we have a plastic feed. Now, at this point, I can unscrew this. That's why I did this for this review. Comes with this nice converter, but with the supplied eyedropper, you can just fill the entire barrel with ink, and there should be no leakage. It's designed to do that. It even has a little rubber O-ring, at least I'm assuming it's rubber, but in any case, it has an O-ring right there at the section. A bigger pen, I would say. It's not exactly tiny. It does post, but then it becomes very, very long, right? It doesn't post very deeply. And I also don't really feel a need to post this, given that it is quite a large pen to begin with. Now, let's see what we can do when we write with this pen. One thing I will say, and that struck me as I wrote with it for the first time, this is the medium steel, and the ink is Laban blue, a blue that I've grown pretty fond of. One thing that struck me straight away as I started to write with this, very pleasant nib. It's always difficult to say, is it truly medium, isn't it fine? Well, I mean, as you know, every company has their own standards for what is medium, fine, broad, etc. I find this medium to be somewhat on the fine side overall, judging many nibs, but very pleasant to use. So I don't know, I couldn't find that online, if this company tunes the nibs before they leave, but very pleasant writer, really nice. Okay, because this is neither a super wet nor a super dry ink, but as you can see, a nice, good, solid flow. As to springiness, as always, very careful. This is not advertised to be a flex nib. I think you can have a little bit of line variation out of this, but again, it's not a flex nib. Reverse writing, it's sort of possible, but as you can see, it's not very successful, so I wouldn't buy it for that. I think what we need to look at next is, what do I like, what do I not like about this pen. Let's do that now. Okay, what do I like, what do I not like about the fine writing Fenestro? I think there's a couple of things that are very nice about it. The nib is solid. For me, it feels like it's a little bit more on the fine end than on the medium end, but it's a number 6 Jowo nib. They're good nibs, they write well. I also really like the choice for a number 6 nib. I find a lot of pen companies in this price range often use number 5 nibs, and I think in this case, with the size of this pen, a number 6 nib is completely appropriate and looks really nice and balanced. I like that. I like the ink window. It's just very clear whether you use it with a cartridge converter, as I'm doing now, or whether you use it as an eyedropper filled pen. It's just really useful to be able to see how much ink you have left. To wonder without having to unscrew the pen barrel. I think that's great. I find it a very balanced pen. It's very pleasant to use. It's a nice size, nice length, pleasant to hold. And I will say I find it very interesting that they made the choice to not have the cap post too deeply. It only goes into about there, right? It's a bit translucent. You may be able to see it. I don't know if you can. Given how much space there is in the cap, because look at this, we have the nib coming up to there, and we have the pen there, right? So there's, sorry, the cap there, so there's quite a bit of space. I would probably have that post a little bit more deeply, but I haven't designed the pen. So if you do post it, it becomes a very large pen. To be fair, the body is so big, I don't really think you need to post this. Solid writer, ink window, nice material, because it is like a snowy day. They have chosen that theme very well. Things I don't like so much. There isn't a lot. One thing I will say is, the clip is pretty tiny. Is that a problem? It could be. If you have a pen case like this, Van der Spek, Dutch, hashtag the Netherlands, and I put this in, right, then as you can see, the clip, this is as deeply as it goes in, barely has any purchase on the pen case. It does in this case. Now, what I haven't tried, I want to try it, but I just completely forgot, it slipped my mind, is what about a breast pocket on a dress shirt, for example? Because my estimate is it's going to fit, but I don't know if there will be any purchase for that clip, right? Were it a bit bigger, it might do so a bit better. Interesting choice. Very vintage inspired. Many vintage pens had smaller clips, but then many vintage pens were also not this length, right? So think about it. Having said that, it didn't bother me because, as you can see, even in my case, it fits easily. I like a bigger pen, so I like that it's this size. Final thing I wanted to say is, I find the price very fair, $85. Now, $85 is not nothing. It's made in Taiwan. Given what you get, the beautiful material, the ink window, the solid writing nib, at $85 I wouldn't expect a gold nib, right? So I think a steel nib is appropriate for the price. This is not the quintessential and ubiquitous and often quoted $5 Chinese pen, but I do think we have to let go a little bit of the idea that, and I'm very careful, okay? China and Taiwan, I know, have an interesting relationship, so I'm trying not to conflate the two, but just because I respect everyone, okay? But having said that, the $5 Chinese pens, that is one class of pen. But I do think that what we are seeing now, what we've been seeing recently, is a very interesting move, especially in a lot of Taiwanese pen makers, to come up with nicely made pens. Laban is from Taiwan. I think they make fantastic pens. We have this company. There are more and more companies in Taiwan, TWSBI, a Taiwanese company, that are really trying to do interesting things, nicely made pens and solid pens. Everything works. Everything is put together with care. This metal ring is flush with the cap. It doesn't stick out. It's not crooked. So what I'm trying to say is the level of quality in this pen, which sometimes with the cheap Chinese pens I don't see as being there because things are crooked. Things stick out. We are talking about a different kind of pen now. I just wanted to point that out because I think it is unfair to say, well, made in China, well, it's going to be cheap. No. There are some excellent products coming out of China that are not cheap. And why should they be cheap? It shouldn't be a matter of, well, it has made in China on there, in this case made in Taiwan. Again, I'm respectful of the difference between the two, but we have to let go of that association, I think. I'm about to review this pen, which is made in China, but it has all kinds of things, including a flashlight, and it's actually a very solidly built pen. But that's for another day. I would like to know what your viewpoint on that is. The coming out of China, whether that is mainland China, whether that is Taiwanese pens, and prices, because I find it interesting. And again, I'm not implying anything, I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just trying to have a civilized discussion about how you feel about that, because I think that association of, well, it's a Chinese pen so it has to be $5 is unfair, and I think it's time for the pen world to let that go. You might just look at Pen BBS. They make this Chinese pens. They're really cool things with neat acrylics, interesting models, interesting filling systems, but they're not $5, and I think that's appropriate at some point. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail this, and I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I do think it's an important discussion to to have as a pen community. I hope this was useful. I want to say a very kind thank you to Fine Writing for sending me this pen. I do apologize it took me so long to review it, but again, we have to blame that on the pandemic, I'm afraid. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye-bye.